1947, at least that's what the SAM says. This is a Teletone 6-tube radio. And if we look at the SAMs here, this sure does look like it, except there's a little oddity, which I'll show you. Now this came to me via a young man who's into vintage electronics. And I believe he recapped this when he was around 14 or 15 years old. And he has not been able to get it to play right. This was 2 or 3 years ago. He recapped it. He says the volume is very low. So I'm hoping this will be a quick diagnosis. I haven't plugged it in yet. I've been trying to find a schematic on it. I like to have those. They're not necessary but helpful, and I wrote this 2327 because that's what I believe he told me the model number was. Now the mystery comes in that this is a 6-tube radio. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this here is a 5-tube radio. This radio doesn't have the 6th tube right here. And it's actually, now that I look at it, it's quite a bit different. But this, I went through every Teletone in Sam's and every Teletone in the Riders, which is posted on Nostalgia Air. The Nostalgia Air website resources page has every Riders schematic, and I went through every single one of them and I couldn't find this radio. So I'm not sure what we're looking at here. In fact, now that I look at the SAMs, I don't even think it's close enough, or the Riders, to be of any real assistance. I think we're just going to be kind of free rolling on this one. So let's plug it in and see what it does. Well, he's got those, continuous sirens and modified vehicles with the open exhaust in the big city, that garbage background soundtrack we get to listen to. Not that what's playing on the radio will be much better, but wait, I hear something. As I'm tuning across the dial, and I could swear what I hear is almost coming out of the audio output transformer, like the speakers open. It sounds very awake. The front end and the IF, it just sounds like the audio output transformer is bad or the speaker is bad. Let's get this out of the case and take a look at his work. Alright, let's take a look at his work here. Lots of disc capacitors, I like that. Replace the electrolytics. 450 volts at 20 microfarads, as I've been mentioning recently. I think it's good to stick with as close to the original spec'd out working voltage as possible. If it's originally it had 150 volt working voltage capacitor, I would recommend putting 160 in, not a 450. There's that question as to whether a 450 will stay formed up being so under voltaged. The other thing I would mention, and I'm not criticizing at all, I'm just trying to put this out there, because when it comes to electronics, young people don't really have anybody anymore to mentor them or teach them like we did. At least when I was in high school, I was about the last year of electronics. But when you solder a component in, don't just lay it next to what you're trying to solder it onto and blob solder onto it like that right there. Create a mechanical connection. J-hook or wrap the wires together so that they're mechanically connected. That one looks like it might be right there. And then solder it. Don't use the solder as a stabilizing force. Just use it as it was intended. So yeah, always create a mechanical connection before you solder something. A lot of these are just laid on top of each other and then solder. That's not very robust. Here's another example of that. But other than that, the work looks pretty good. There's another resistor that's just laid in there and soldered. This here might be a little bit close for comfort. You might have wanted to put some heat shrink on that. I know that you put these yellow capacitors in and they don't, the length of the body of the capacitor is nowhere near the length of the original, so you end up with having to extend the wires and all of that. But besides that, it doesn't look like these tubes were added on, so I'm not sure why this thing has 6 tubes. And it has two 12SQ7s here, a 12SK7, that should be the rectifier tube, and a 12SA7, and this is probably a 50L6 if I had to guess. So, with that said, what I'm hearing the audio from here is almost definitely the audio output transformer. I mean, I can actually hear it coming out of the windings, so that would suggest that the speaker's open. The speaker voice coil. Here's a little example of a soldering deficiency. I'll have to touch that up, but the mechanical connection part of it's okay. It was wrapped around the old wire, so that was okay. Just the solder didn't stick. Sometimes you have to use flux on this old corroded stuff. I'm checking where the wires, primary wires from the audio output transformer connected, and they look like they haven't been tampered with, so I'm gonna move on to checking this area up here, the transformer and the speaker. We're going to just start with a signal generator and audio tone. I got it hooked up to the speaker. Seems good to me. Now I've got it hooked up to the primary, the audio output transformer. Where's it? That is coming out of the transformer. It's not coming out of the speaker. So what is the primary side of the audio output transformer open? How is this possible? So that's really not very loud. That's actually very quiet. One thing you got to keep in mind always when watching these videos is the compression in the camera's microphone system will always make things that are really soft seem louder than they are, and things that are louder seem way softer. It's kind of the great equalizer when it comes to audio volume. So that squeal from this transformer is very, very quiet compared to what it should be. Alright, what we're going to do to make this just a little bit more fun than your typical All-American 5 AM radio repair is everybody's got something like this around the house, from an old cordless phone. This is not the modern, lightweight, switching mode like cell phone charger. This is the old school one with a little transformer in it. Now the idea here is to get one that it has the lowest output voltage possible, and I'm not going to spend a bunch of time, but if I had one that was 4.5 or 5 volts, it would be better than this one, which is 110 to 9 volts. So what we're going to do is we're going to, and again, this is heavy. This has got a little transformer in it like that. What we're going to do is we're going to crack this open, and we're going to just use a screwdriver and a pair of pliers to bang on the screwdriver because I can't find a hammer. And we're going to wear safety glasses because it's not fun to get crap in your eyes. Always wear safety glasses. So here's what we're going to do. We're doing is crack this thing open without damaging it, hopefully. Now this one just popped right open, and you can see because it's a DC power supply, it has a little bridge rectifier in there. Alright, so we want to get this transformer disconnected from that bridge rectifier. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take and cut this board up and get it out of here, leaving the 2 wires from the secondary of the transformer. Alright, so this is what we end up with. That's been removed. This side, which is the 110 volt side, will go to what the primary is. The secondary here will connect to the speaker. And this transformer is probably not going to work nearly as good as an audio output transformer because the coils are not stacked, they're separated. And I believe they do this for isolation because you're connecting this to the line. So the whole point of the audio output transformer is impedance matching. The tubes are high impedance, higher voltage, lower current. The speakers are low impedance, higher current, lower voltage. So I have the green again hooked up to the secondary of the transformer, which was the low voltage side, the output. And I have that hooked to the speaker here. And the white was what plugged into the line, and I have that hooked between the plate of the audio output tube and the B+. I have not disconnected the old transformer. I've simply just paralleled it for a quick test. It is powered up. I have audio output transformers, but this is just a educational test thing. Most people don't have audio output transformers. They'd have to order one. This is a simple Easy place to get one to do your testing. You try and set it down.
If Doug can do this, I've got a hunch that you can too. But here's the thing. The outdoor recreation that so many of us last or stay for a few. And
only one day God gives me this moment.
where? First. Easiest those that come on. You. Each Lord's Day.
There it is. My out of Beverly Hills, my oldies station. Weird, it's getting like some out of phase thing between the two transformers. What the hell, is the one in there starting to work now? I hooked up a real audio output transformer and it sounds a little bit better. But I believe the primary is open on this because when I connect the primary, it starts working more because the tube would be getting power. So I think the primary is open on this. We could do a voltage check. There's a definite sound quality difference between this one and that one. This one sounds fat. This one sounds real thin.
And when I touch you, I feel happy inside.
Well, this right here is a audio output transformer that's spec'd out to be used with a 50C5 out of a kit that I had, and it's 2.5K on the primary, 3.2 ohms on the secondary. But I will tell you right now that the bigger the transformer, the better the fidelity, period. So this one sounds better than this one, and this one sounds a little better than this one. So bigger is better. Actually, the fidelity of this one is better than this one. The red one is louder than this one, but this one has more bass. I think what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to just tack this one in there, and then I'll let him fix it if he wants. He's a pretty resourceful, smart kid, so let him play with it. He can learn. And let me get this tacked in here. I'm also going to check the plate voltage with all this crap out of here. The other test we can do to see if it's the primary is open is a basic voltage test. So red always goes to B+, and then blue coming out of the transformer goes to the plate, and that's like standardized. It doesn't matter if it's a vertical output or what. Red always goes to B+, blue goes to the plate. So here's red right here. We have 124 volts on red going into the transformer, and then here's blue right here, which goes to this capacitor, and we have 1 volt. So obviously the primary of the audio output transformer is open. It sure appeared it would have been the secondary that would have been open, because I could hear audio coming out of the core, and I'm not quite sure exactly why that is. Is it arcing in there where it's open? Is it there's some kind of leakage? It's very mysterious why I would hear audio from the transformer when the primary side is open and the output tube is getting 1 volt on the plate. So it's just one of those kind of mysterious things with this old stuff. It actually sounds pretty good now that I disconnected the primary of the old transformer. I'm not going to remove the old transformer. It's riveted into place. I've tried to make it safe by cutting off the wall prongs and covering them with silicone, and it's just sitting there. So I'm going to let the owner of this radio play with it if he wants to. If not, you could use it like this. How much is a 17-year-old going to use an AM radio? Maybe a lot, who knows. Anyway, that's it. It's all hooked up, and it sounds pretty good for a transformer out of a Radio Shack wall wart.
활동할 수 있는 Physics. 43. If you plan on selling or buying your home, listen to this important message. Rex Real Estate sells homes for 2% total. That's right, only 2%, not the out. Intuition for all.
Did you know that music can help you find love? Remember this silly little love song? You have silly little love song? Or silly?
Right, a tasty 2-story tower.
Is feed on a search the internet, not the antiquated MLS. 하나님께서 그
marzo
San Lucas. What wondrous love.
On absolute noise.
El que se entere. Air taxi, the electric? That story's coming up in 5 minutes when Bloomberg checks your money.
The biggest storm of the season moves in. Those stories coming up in the next 15 minutes, but first, at 4:45, traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 5s. Here's Manny Pacheco. Though improving...
Hey, it sounds good. It works good. It's impressive. It's impressive, and there's a transformer, and there's the 6 tubes. If they're metal, can we call them vacuum bulbs? Because aren't bulbs glass? So what would metal ones be called? I have to work on that.